Welcome to Only Murders in My Mind, a Random Thought production. Hi, I'm Carol Bissett, a crime writer, and I invite you with my co-presenters, Liz Hedgecock and Mike Jackson, each week to our conversations on all things murderous. Would you believe it? It's Thursday, it's 5 p.m, and it's Only Murders in My Mind with... Ta-da! Liz Hedgecock.
Hello.
I still know Mike. I know. So get well soon, Mike.
Yes,
We're
definitely.
we're doing our best without you. We're going to do... I've just asked Liz how you pronounce it. Lexicon of Murder.
Lexicon of Murder.
There we go. And this is little phrases that are used that we...
Yeah,
People
criminal words, where they come from, stuff like that.
Yes.
We just thought it'd be interesting to look at some of the words that we bandy about.
Yes,
So.
things we hear on a regular basis, and some we don't.
Yes.
I've got to say.
And you will probably not be surprised to hear that Mike has been doing some research. So thank you very much, Mike. So
Yes.
Mike is here in research spirit, if
He
not in
is.
actual corporeal form.
Yes, he's definitely holding his own. And
Hope you got
you
your
know,
feet up and some hot lemon and honey, Mike.
Yeah, maybe with a little tiny bit of whiskey in it.
Well, steady on. Although I suppose if it's 5 o'clock, that's quite reasonable.
Yeah, it's always 5 o'clock somewhere in the world.
Yeah,
isn't
good
it?
point. Have one for me, Mike.
Yes, I was looking at this list when Mike and went, oh yeah, well, where did that came from such and such a
Right,
thing.
go on then. Give us one that startled you.
Well, I'm just trying to find one that did, because some of these I do know from when writing and watching other things. I'm just trying.
Okay.
To...
Well, I'm going to jump in with one, which is the word forensic.
Go on then.
So that's one of your favourite topics.
It
isn't
is,
Carol?
it is,
Yes.
yeah.
So we think about it as, denoting the application of scientific methods and techniques to the investigation of crime, or being very precise with great attention to detail. Where it actually comes from is the Latin word forum. The reason being because forum then became forensis, meaning in open court or public, because if you were going to try a case or bring up a matter like that, you had to do it in front of people.
Yeah.
You couldn't just do it in private. You had to do it, in the forum, so to speak. So forensic comes from forensis, which I thought was, kind of interesting, because you don't think about it as bringing things out in the open.
No.
But that's actually where it comes from.
I wonder when then, this is sort of going down a rabbit hole. Not that we do that very often.
No.
When I used to be on something called the Community Health Council, and we had a forensic unit, which would have been called years ago for the criminally insane. It's a bit more soft, the title now. So it's people who have been found to have committed a crime who were mentally ill or mentally unstable. And they call that a forensic unit.
Yes, I used to work in various mental health trusts,
Yes, of
and they
course you
had
did.
forensic units of various securities.
Yeah. So I'm just
which could be quite,
frightening.
daunting.
Yes.
Because obviously there's lots of, unlocking of doors and locking of doors and sort of airlock situations and things like that.
Yeah.
So
some very dangerous people who are, they're not, they can't really be tried because they're not responsible for what they do. If you look at the Mental Health Act, where does forensic come there? Is it to do with
to do with the law?
The law, yeah.
So I think because there's a criminal and a law element to it, then forensic unit, because these are people who have committed a crime.
Yeah. Because I know there's a beautiful housing estate in Warrington, on the edge of Warrington, where there was years ago a huge mental hospital. It was massive.
Is this up the top of Warrington?
At Winnick.
Yes, I used to work at Five Boroughs.
There you go. And when I was on the Community Health Council, it was up for sale.
Yes. Now, I didn't realise that all of that used to be Five Boroughs, because, I think the scope of some of these places has changed a great deal, probably because a lot of mental health care is now in the community.
Yes, it is.
And you have outreach teams and stuff like that. So there's not as much of that. Yes.
That's exactly why they decided to shut the hospital. Massive building to upkeep as well. Huge. Walls as thick as the castle,
Yes. Well, they used to have the original plans on the wall.
Oh, right. I never noticed that, I must admit.
Interesting.
Because I probably went into the same rooms you did for meetings.
Yeah, it was quite a big rambling place.
Oh, it was. It was huge. I used to get lost regularly. But they did say in the planning that there would still be a forensic unit somewhere on the site, at the back. And what worried me was they were going, and to pay for the forensic unit, we're going to get some of the worst cases from all around the country. And I'm thinking, people are paying millions of pounds for these houses, and they've got this forensic unit at the back. But it would be, I suppose, highly secure.
It depends on the security of the unit, doesn't it?
Yeah, it would be highly secure.
And having been into various, they are very, very careful about stuff like that.
Yeah,
so.
and never been any incidents. And this is going back a long time ago. So I've got red herring, which we're all au fait with a red herring.
Yes, we did do a podcast on this, didn't we?
We did do a podcast.
We had a good old Barney about that, whether a red herring was this or that or t'other, and what it really meant. Yeah, so go on. What does Mike say on his list?
19th century hunting practice where a smoked herring, which turns red, was used to distract scent hounds. So that's perfect, isn't it? So it's a false clue to send you in the wrong direction. So that's where it came from originally.
Yes.
We knew what it meant.
We had a big debate about whether it was a false clue or a real clue.
Oh, true, we did, didn't we?
Because, was it that actually they were supposed to be following the herring, or what was it exactly? But
yeah, and we did.
In any case, there was a herring and it was red. So there you go.
Go on.
One that I've got is fence.
Yes.
So, you know what a fence is?
I know what it means. I don't know where it means. It's somebody who has a product. You sell it or give them to the fence, who then gets rid of it for you.
Yeah, it's someone who will basically take stolen goods.
Yeah.
Well, the word fence actually comes from defense.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Because, you see, if you don't have any stolen goods on you anymore, then obviously, your hands are clean. Can't be traced. So they are your defence against getting arrested.
Yes, I like that. Oh.
Yeah, I thought that was rather neat.
So what were we saying about, was it MacGuffin? Is that how you pronounce
it?
A MacGuffin,
yes.
Which I hadn't heard, I've got to say.
You should have watched 3-2-1 like I did back in the day. Ted Rogers, if anyone of a certain age is watching... Oh, Carol is doing the 3-2-1 at me.
It was a very peculiar show.
It was incredibly. He was always going, and here's the MacGuffin, because they do one of those awful comedy sketches.
Yeah.
And then they bring a little object, or they'd have a singing act on, and
weird.
Or a ventriloquist, and the ventriloquist dummy would hand over a replica of Dusty Bin, or a key, or a whatever it was, a dog collar, and you'd have to try and guess what on earth the prize would be.
It was really a weird
prize. But Ted Rogers, who I never remember doing anything, I was going, but is this a MacGuffin, or could it be Dusty Bin?
You see, now that I did watch that, but that never registered with me. And it was popularised by Alfred Hitchcock, though he claimed it was an old Scottish storytelling term, and it means...
And I think he got it from somebody else who claimed it was a Scottish storytelling term.
Maybe
it may or may not have been.
Yeah, it's up to you.
No one can actually say for certain, yes, MacGuffin is an old Scottish storyteller. So I think this is a bit of smoke and mirrors.
Well,
personally.
Probably, yeah. Nobody's got... Yeah.
It's still cool.
It's a plot device that drives the story, but may not be important in itself. So, for example, a stolen briefcase in a thriller. Now, is the briefcase, the fact that this briefcase has been stolen, is that important? Well, we don't know.
Well, like the briefcase in Pulp Fiction.
Oh, yes.
They're looking at no one ever knows what's in there. But a great example I saw was the Holy Grail.
Oh.
Because in King Arthur and the Knights, they're always going off after the Holy Grail or the questing beast.
Yes.
And the questing beast is basically, we need to go on a quest. Oh, the questing beast's just gone by. Let's go after the questing beast. And then while they're on their way to try and catch the questing beast, who nobody's ever seen, I don't think. I think it makes a fearful noise, but apart from that, don't know a thing about it. They'll get into another adventure and they'll meet a fair maiden, or some mysterious knight will intercept them and go, oi. or, whatever happens. But yeah, I mean, the Grail itself, I mean, you never really get to the end of that story. It's just, I think every so often when like Mallory got bored, he'd be like, oh, I know, I'll send him off after the Grail again. That's always good for a laugh.
See, when I think of the Holy Grail, I always think of Monty Python and
the coconut shells.
Yeah, and the knights that go, Nick! It is but just a little sharp scratch, and he's got his arm off. I'm sorry if you don't know what Monty Python.
Shrubbery, we do.
Take me to the shrubbery. Yes, we could go on about this for ages. Go on, it's your turn.
Is it my turn
Your
again?
turn.
Okay. You've got me on the hot now. Clue, which I think you possibly have on your list.
Have I got
which
Clue?
I thought was great. So Clue, CLUE, we know what one of those is. Original spelling was clue, CLEW, meaning string. Hank of string. And the idea of clue is it would lead you out of a labyrinth.
Ah, yes.
So it would be the thread that leads you out of a labyrinth, thinking of like Greek myth and Theseus and the Minotaur and the maze.
Yes.
So a clue is something that will lead you out of your confusion and being lost.
That is very good. That is interesting.
Well, one does try.
One does. You try. We both try very hard. We're both
Some
very
might
trying.
say that we were occasionally very trying. Yes,
I couldn't possibly comment on that. Smoking gun. I mean, we've all heard that phrase, haven't we? That became popular in the 20th century, referring to direct, undeniable evidence. The gun is still smoking after being fired. And in crime fiction, it means it's the ultimate piece of proof that exposes the murderer. So if you're stood there and you've just shot somebody, they don't really smoke anymore, but they used to. I mean, nowadays, when somebody's fired a gun, they're looking for a gun residue on the hands.
Yes.
Obviously, fingerprints and all this sort of thing. How far away was the gun from the person that was shot, or all that sort of evidence. But it is something that will... It's great. It's a great phrase to use.
It's just cool, isn't it?
Let's
admit it. It's cool.
It is.
Okay, I've got one for you, which is gaslighting.
Oh, now this is quite a phrase that's used a lot at the moment, isn't it?
It is. Well, it's suddenly picked up popularity. I think it was about 2010-ish. It suddenly grew. I think when people realised sort of what it was, and it kind of, it needed to be named. But it comes from, well, first of all, it comes from a British play which was called Gaslight.
Yes, I've heard of that.
Yeah, by Patrick Hamilton. And it was, I think it was written in 1938. And then it became a film in 1940, Gaslight. And then they remade it in the US in 1944 and also called it Gaslight. And apparently the idea of playing the films is you have a seemingly, very nice, genteel husband. And he uses lies and manipulation to isolate his wife, who happens to be an heiress, and persuade her that she's mentally ill so that he can steal from her.
Oh.
And one of the things he does is, because obviously it's what I should say is it's set during the Victorian-era.
Right.
So they would have had gaslights in the houses. And what he does is he secretly turns it down and turns it up again, insisting that his wife's imagining it. So you can really see where it comes from.
That's really cruel, isn't it?
It is.
So in modern day times, it's somebody that's leading somebody up the garden path for gains?
It's someone who's manipulating.
Yeah.
So they're trying to make them believe something is happening or something is not happening.
Yeah.
So and it's generally, I think, meant to make people doubt themselves.
Yeah.
And think, oh, okay, maybe I'm wrong about that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, which you do.
Maybe I didn't see that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's sort of a psychological torture.
It's psychological manipulation.
It's terrible. And I think if you're in a relationship with somebody and you've got a lot of confidence in them, you do start thinking, where you've never doubted yourself before, you do start wondering whether you're going a bit round the bend. I hate to say that phrase, but it's a phrase I use all the time for myself.
Yeah. Well, apparently gaslighting was word of the year in 2022.
Oh, well, but I have heard it used a lot.
And the reason why they said was due to, it was Merriam-Webster, the dictionary people who did this, and they said it was due to the fast increase in channels and technologies used to mislead.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and I mean, if you think of things like, deep fakes.
Yes, yeah.
And stuff like that. And they're saying the word had become common for the perception of deception. And they're saying quite often people use it incorrectly, thinking about conflicts and disagreements. So if someone is like pushing their point of view, that isn't gaslighting. That's just someone being very definite about what they think.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, I've said this before, but frequently now, and I'm obviously I'm not on my own. There's a lot of people out there, but I get lots of friend requests from gorgeous, mature Americans who have, been surgeons in the military, asking.
It's amazing they've got so much time on their
I
hands,
know,
isn't
I
it?
know,
Yeah.
and I know from sort of looking into this that if you accept these people, they'll start. It's a little person sitting in a room somewhere. It's probably a female sitting in a room somewhere in far reaches of the world. And the next minute they like, oh, could I borrow $100 off you because my dog's really ill.
Well, we're actually moving on to one of my other words, which is catfishing.
Yes, so that's another popular one.
That is
isn't
catfishing. So the creation of a fictitious online persona or fake identity, usually on social networks, with the intent of deception. So either it's to mislead someone into an online romantic relationship, like all these people who like message my author, hello my dear, you look beautiful in your profile. I'm thinking, I really do not. I would like to know more about you, please can we be friends, or could you send me your phone? No, I will not be doing that. I will be hiding your comments and blocking you. But yeah, so it's either usually about romance or it's about financial fraud.
And usually the way to I mean, never ever answer them. But if you look on their profiles, they're not following anybody. Nobody's following them. They've got no friends. And when you look at the history, there's very little on the history. So you know that they're just setting you up for a fall.
Well, I would like to think that Ronan Keating is desperately interested in my books, but somehow I think he's a bit too busy for that.
So following on from that, I've got Cat's Paw.
I'm not done with
Catfish. Sorry. I do apologise.
Sorry. No, the term came from an American documentary film called Catfish.
Oh.
And apparently in the film, the executive producer, who'd been a victim of catfishing, he developed an online friendship with a 40-year-old housewife, mainly presenting herself as an 18-year-old from the Midwest. And in the documentary, the woman's husband compares her behaviour to that of a catfish being shipped with live cod. As she did. I mean, it wouldn't spring to mind for me. But anyway, apparently that is an urban legend, and it originated from a couple of things from 1913.
Oh, it's a long way back.
It is. It's a real jump, this. Essays in Rebellion and The Catfish. Catchy title. And it refers to the practice of placing a catfish in a tank full of cod for the purposes of shipping.
So it's just to bulk out the...
Well, no, the imposter or catfish is said to prevent the cod from becoming pale and lethargic.
Oh.
So it means you get a high quality selection of cod.
Oh, okay.
There you go. So there is actually a real fish connection in catfish.
Well, who would have known that?
I know. There you go. Isn't language brilliant?
Yeah, it's quite complex, that, isn't it?
It is. I just love it when it jumps back in time and you're like, really?
Yeah, when you think it's a modern phrase as well. Catfishing.
Extremely. Anyway, cat's paw.
Cat's paw. Origin: an old fable about a monkey tricking a cat into pulling chestnuts from a fire.
Ooh, sneaky.
Meaning someone who uses a tool by another, often in criminal schemes. So someone who uses a tool by another, often in criminal schemes. I don't really understand that. Do you understand it?
I think the idea is that you trick someone into doing your dirty work.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So it could be something like, oh, could you just like go to here and give someone this envelope?
Yeah.
So that you won't get caught with it.
Yeah.
Don't
that
say
makes
it was
sense.
me or something like that.
Yeah. Or can you just take this case on the plane for me?
Exactly. Or would you mind just picking this up for me because I'm a bit busy?
Yes.
Yeah.
That type
so
of
that
thing.
sort of thing I think would be cat's paw activity.
Yes. That just sound like it could be.
And going from cats to pigeons.
Way.
Stool pigeons.
Yay.
I mentioned this, I was doing some research on this last night and I said the word stool pigeon and my husband immediately broke into the song. Do you know stool pigeon?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, stool pigeon. Cha, cha, cha. Excellent stuff. Well, there's various schools of thought on this. I won't say schools of fish. Someone said the term stool pigeon comes from the practice of tying a pigeon to a stool, odd, to lure other birds into a net.
Right.
So an ornithological thing. And that comes from the late 19th century. And I mean, the first definition that's come up here says that, and then says it also can refer to a person who acts as an informer or a spy for the police, which is my understanding.
Yes.
Yeah, I found, because this is the AI definition. I looked again and I found something from an ornithology website, and what it said there was what informers would do in order to get their information and pass it on to the police and probably get paid for it was they would hang out in bars and listen, around people who were of a criminal nature. And so because they were hanging out in the bars on the stools, with their ears flapping, they became known as stool pigeons.
Oh, yes, that sounds more like...
it does rather, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh, I've got a dead drop. So we're going into espionage now and spies and things like that. And it originated in the Cold War espionage terminology.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a secret location where criminals or spies exchange information or goods without direct contact. So there might be a wall in the country and it's got a big stone that can be taken out and there's a gap.
Yes.
And you put your code or your, it'd be a pen drive now, wouldn't it? It'd be
probably would be, yeah.
In the
or a chip or something like that.
And you put the stone back, and of course, the only other person that knows about it is the person who's going to go and pick it up. And they can be used for years and years and years and years.
Yes, I've been reading a book called, I think it's called Curious London. And it's lots and lots of like little snippets and articles. That was the one where I told you about, was it Mr. Bissett's cats?
Yes.
Yes, it was from that book.
Right.
And they were talking about a particular lamppost.
Yeah.
And I think it was somewhere like Pimlico or Bloomsbury in London. And it was frequently used for exchanging because there was a little compartment in the lamppost.
Yeah.
And spies used to leave their stuff there.
Yeah.
So that would be a dead drop.
Yeah. So
I might have to go and visit it and take a look.
I think people started using this type of thing when they did those, what they call where two of you go around with a map and you have to find things. I can't remember what it's called.
Oh, orienteering.
Yes. They'll be more obvious, I think.
A bit like geocaching as well, isn't it? Where you have you've got to go and find a place and...
Have we got any more then, Liz? I mean, I got loads here. Let me see. We've got...
Oh, good grief. I'm just looking up a bit more about dead drops. And apparently, there were things like wireless dead drops, and they were concealed inside hollowed out rocks or spy rocks. So presumably, what they were doing was putting like wireless receivers inside fake rocks and hoping to get information from, in this case, it would have been the Russian spies.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, a dead drop can be anything, anywhere, as long as there is somewhere to hide something.
Yes, and quite often there's some sort of system so that you know that a drop's been made.
Yeah.
So it could be like chalk marks on a wall or chewing gum on a lamppost.
Yeah. Flowers in a window.
Yes.
Something like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I've got perp walk.
Perp walk. Go on.
Walk. It's American law enforcement practice.
It has to be, doesn't it?
Well, doesn't it, though?
Yeah, perp. Perpetrator.
Yeah, perp. Of parading an arrested suspect in front of the media.
Given some of the crimes we've been looking at and the role the media plays, that's really interesting, isn't it? So why would they do that? Why would they make a thing of
it was
getting the media involved?
A public display of a suspect to imply guilt before trial. Now, I don't think you'd be able to do that anymore.
No, I don't think you would. That sounds
because
distinctly dodgy.
Yeah, because if you've got, one of the things they tell, it's a high profile trial. The judge will warn the jury not to start looking at social media and things like that, because it might skew their thinking of the person, because you usually get sort of so many people that are going, yeah, they did it, and so many people going, no, they didn't. So it'd drive you crazy, wouldn't it, if you tried to
it absolutely would,
figure it out from that. Yeah. I mean, one of the things that was a high-profile murder was Blade Runner in South Africa. I'm trying to remember his real name, the athlete.
Oh, Oscar Pistorius.
Thank you. And there was so much social media around that.
Oh, and so much speculation about, where he was and where the shots were.
What he did and everything. Yeah.
Yes.
It couldn't... The people that were in the, trying the case could not possibly have not seen a lot of this before the case. So it's very difficult, isn't it? So, so actually hanging somebody out to dry and going, here we was charging them with murder, like in the old days in America, wouldn't go down very well these days.
So I've got another one here for you, which probably seems very obvious, but detective.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, it does seem obvious.
Well, obviously it comes from detect, but did you know that detective is short for detective policeman?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, so that's where it was from. So detective was an adjective there, as in serving to detect. So the idea was back then that obviously a detective would always be a policeman.
Yes.
Whereas now, of course, it feels like, certainly in literature, we've moved on quite a lot from a detective has to be a policeman.
Yes, because a detective now is, a lot of police officers, not everybody, would want to be a detective. They'd want to be in CID.
Yes.
They'd want to be in the Cheshire Serious Crime Squad. There isn't any such thing, by the way. Because
not yet.
It would elevate their career. I don't know.
It's that cachet of not having to wear a uniform.
Yeah, true. My neighbour, when I lived in Cumbria, I knew he was a police officer, and I'd never seen him go out in the morning in a uniform. But a lot of police officers get changed at the police station, and I met him in McDonald's one day with two officers in uniform, and I went, "Where's your uniform, Jack?" He went, "You don't wear them in CID." I didn't know that. And I was going, okay.
Fair enough.
So he was a CID officer. So I used to go to him at early doors when I was writing me detective novels for the inside information.
Very handy.
And what can you and can't do, sort of thing. Yeah. So he was a very helpful person to
excellent stuff
to read for.
Right, that is a lot of words.
Yes.
Heaps of words.
Yes, and I mean, there's more, but you know, we could be here for hours.
We could, but maybe we should stop.
I think it's time for a cup of tea, Liz.
I think you could be absolutely
and maybe a biscuit.
Definitely. I have to look up the etymology of the word biscuit now. Not really.
I've got to say, when things come up on the television that I've never heard of, I have to Google them now to see where they originated.
What did we do before the
Google?
internet,
Yeah. So and some of them are really. My son and I were watching House yesterday, and we were talking about pox. Yes. Smallpox, monkeypox, cowpox, chickenpox.
Yes.
Chickenpox is nothing to do with the others, by the way. That's just a medical thing. But you said, didn't you? Well, why is it anything to do with chickens? I went, I don't think so. So I said, well, why is it called chickenpox? So I had to look it up. It's to do with chickpeas.
Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. But apparently the pustules with chickenpox look like chickpeas. They don't, do they? No. So anyway, that's where chickenpox comes from. And on
there you are. Oh, and biscuit, by the way, comes from Latin bis and coctus, twice cooked.
Oh, definitely.
Because you used to bake them and then you used to dry them out in a slow oven, so they were twice cooked.
Oh, beautiful.
Fantastic.
And lovely. Better than ending on chickenpox.
I thought so.
And pustules.
And on that note.
Right, so until next week, thank you very much for listening. It's bye from me.
And it's bye from me.
You have been listening to Only Murders in My Mind, a Random Thought production, produced by John Bissett. The music in Peril was composed and recorded by OM Studio Strings.